Hello, and welcome back to my new live series all about creating, giving, and healing with inspiring people. And I have a very special guest today who will be joining in a minute. I wanted to give him a little introduction. His name is Richard Bedard, a young guy in his early 20s. We randomly were sitting next to each other at a Knicks game, struck up a conversation, kept in touch, and have stayed in touch since. This was like, I want to say like 3 or 4 years ago. Then we were talking and we thought today would be a perfect day because it's the 30th anniversary since the passing of ADA, the American with Disabilities Act, something that he's very passionate about. So we thought we would raise awareness today all about that. Currently, well, he got his undergraduate degree from Adelphi University in English and Communications. Now he's getting his master's in psychology and he is applying for his PhD in clinical psychology. He's created an app and probably the most positive guy I know. So let's welcome him to the conversation. All right, here we go. Oh, here he comes. Hey!
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good, my dude. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
You are live on my
I'm
Instagram.
I'm happy about it. And thank you for calling me young. I'm 25, almost 26, so I'm getting there, but I'm still young.
You're young, brother. You are young. um, oh, nice hat, Miami Heat. That's what I was.
It matches the outfit. I have to. I still represent the Knicks, though.
Ooh, I hope no Knicks fans are watching. Are you doing that because I'm from South Florida and you know I love the Heat?
Of course.
That's very honorable. But the Knicks are like, well, the Knicks and the Nets are like the second team I root for because we live here. All right, so I want to dive into some things. So, did you watch my first live that I did with Chelsea?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, what'd you think?
It was excellent. I feel like I loved her description of a teapot boiling over with excitement. I kind of feel the same way, but I can't say that because it's copyright. So yeah.
So we're going to dive in a couple of topics. I introduced you and told everybody that you got your undergrad in English and Communications. Then you got you're getting your master's in psychology and you're applying for a PhD in clinical psychology. So you just love learning.
I'm a professional student.
Yeah. And where do you, after you get your PhD, where do you see yourself going? What is your dream sort of profession, career? And so I know you want to do a lot of things. I know we've talked about this, but.
Yeah, I mean that's a loaded question. It changes from moment to moment, not moment to moment, but I evolve as a person, and as I evolve, my goals evolve too. But at the current moment, my ambition is to make a clinic for children and adults on the spectrum of autism spectrum disorder. I worked at something called Adelphi Bridges, which is basically a section of Adelphi strictly for students on the spectrum. And it's amazing to see how the support can make somebody go from having, from struggling in school to graduating top of their class. So I really recognize that support and acceptance of people of all kinds, giving them the support that they need can allow people to reach the top no matter, what the situation is. It's just a matter of allowing people to express themselves accurately.
I hope people see this is why we became friends. I mean, I couldn't be more aligned with your thinking. And at your young age, I know you don't think you're young, how you see this and have been working towards this in so many ways. I think you're being humble because there's other things. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the app you created. I know you just mentioned that the app is not going so well right now because of COVID, but tell us all about this app that you created and who it's for and what it does.
Well, the app is really, started from my undergraduate days. Like you said, I was an undergraduate in communications and English. So that was the more communications side of me. It was in my sophomore year. We were doing it. We were supposed to create an app for just, uh, for a grade, really. Um,
Oh, I didn't know that.
but then what ended up happening was, I was having trouble coming up with an idea for the app. So my professor, who was really kind to me, said you should just go based on your life experience and what is important to you. And so I have a lot of friends with, varying degrees of disability, and I grew up in a school where they had physical therapy in school, but during the summertime, um, they would lose the progress of the lack of PT. So I ended up coming up with an app called Therion, which is an app. Basically, it's like Uber but for physical therapy. Um,
Awesome.
and
Physical therapy for anyone or specifically for the disabled?
no, disability is a broad category
Yes, it is.
because you you can either be born with a disability, congenital disability, or you can acquire a disability. In fact, 1 in 5 people in the United States and around the world are disabled. So I really just wanted to make a space where people can can get the help they need, because help is it's hard to come by sometimes, and I just wanted to help with that kind of feeling.
Okay, so you just brought up like a bunch of topics. A congenital disability, born with it, and or acquiring it somehow in your lifetime. Would you tell us a little bit about your story? Because in some ways you were both. You were both congenital and acquired it. You acquired it in the birthing process. You have two twin brothers. One is identical, one is fraternal. So God bless your mom who
Uh,
carried three of you. And you have an identical twin who is able-bodied. And if you're comfortable, would you tell us what happened at birth and your experience?
yeah, I think he's on the call too, so it's gonna be fun to explain this. So basically, I was born, I'm a triplet, and the way it was like a sandwich. So I was on the bottom, and then my brother Andrew was on top of me, and my brother Kevin was on top of him. So what ended up happening was they were both on my legs. So by the time the birth happened, we were there wasn't oxygen to my brain, and there was a bunch of birth complications, and so that's how I was born with my disability. It depends on how you look at it. You can say that it was a bad situation. I could blame my brothers, but at the end of the day, I don't. And in reality, it makes me able to win every argument, because they can't really say anything. All I do is say, you made me disabled, so
No,
yeah,
come
so
on.
you can't say, but
That's not fair.
I mean, yeah, but in a way, it brings up a point, because I think being comfortable joking and expressing myself through through and with my disability is important. I
Yeah,
think,
humor. I think humor is the best, one of the best, for lack of a better word, weapons to deal with challenging situations, and it brings people together. It takes the tension out of the room. I always think humor is a wonderful way to start conversations and bridge people. There was an experience we had together where I had a firsthand experience with some of the, even with the American with Disabilities Act. We went to meet for lunch and we met on the subway. And you came from Long Island, you took an Access-a-Ride to the train, then you took the Long Island Railroad, how did you get from the Long Island Railroad to the subway?
I stopped in Penn, so I just kind of went across the hallway to the
Oh, right, right.
yeah.
I know we've been in that elevator at Penn Station, and
Oh,
somebody had
yes.
peed in it. It was the worst experience ever. And you were laughing the whole time, and I was going to vomit. It was the worst. I am allergic to the smell of pee. And I couldn't take, I don't know how you do it, but that's not even what happened. Well, that's not even the story. So we eventually got to the subway. We got to the subway, and we were going to dinner. I think it was like, we were going to lunch or around the Upper West Side or something. We got on, and then the elevator wasn't working at our stop.
Yeah.
It was closed. So then we got off, and your chair, for those who don't know, you have an electronic chair, which is like 2,000 pounds.
Yeah.
No, that's
If
1,000
that, like,
pounds.
I think it's about 2,000 to 5,000. I'm not really sure. I don't know the specs on it right now.
2,000 to 5,000 pounds. It's a souped
Something
up
like that.
chair that helps you sort of stand straight up and go all directions and everything. So that chair was super heavy. So us just getting on and off the subway over that little gap was like an event.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I was leaning down and sort of I had to reach down below your crotch and lift it, and you were cracking up, and I was like horrified, not horrified. I did not mean reaching down and helping, but horrified that you had to go through this. And so then we get off, and then we go to the next stop, and the elevator was broken there too.
Yeah.
And then we go to the next stop, and the elevator was broken. And then we called for help, and they said go all the way down. So then we went all the way up to the Heights, and it was still broken.
Yeah.
And then we had to call the fire department, but then we couldn't even get through on the intercom. And I mean, we were stuck underground for like 2.5 hours.
To be honest with you, we were stuck. And you bring up a good point. New York is one of the most train-oriented cities in America. And I think they have about, I'm not sure on the statistics, but I think they have about 400 elevators, and less than a fourth of those are wheelchair accessible. So we had a 1 in 4 shot of getting to somewhere that was actually.
And of those 1 in 4 elevators, many of them were broken. So I don't know, it became a 1 in 64 shot.
The odds were not in our favor. And it's important because when we talk about just in general disability, access is a very important part of it. It makes no sense to live in New York if you can't access New York. But nonetheless it's a growing kind of awareness. It's the 30th anniversary of the ADA, so it's important to understand all this, and it's really I think we've come a long way, but there's still further to go.
Well, yeah, isn't it? It's amazing. I think people don't realize that 61 million people live with disabilities in America. Before we forget, that entire time you were laughing and cracking jokes, and we had to go to the bathroom. We were hungry. And it was and you were cracking up the whole time. So before we leave that, we're going to come back to the ADA. I want to talk about your positive attitude. And I feel like I'm a positive guy, and I always try to be, even when I'm overwhelmed, and it's not easy sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think you are the most positive person I know. My mom is pretty darn positive, and I want to know, how do you cultivate, were you born with it? Are you just like naturally gifted with just like, a positive energy? Was it cultivated? I mean, I've met your brothers. Your twin brother is super positive too. So I feel like there's something in your genetics that is, super sweet, but also like you learned a lot of intense lessons from your mom. And where does it come from?
You would think that, it's in my genetics. Each one of my brothers are kind and nice in their own way, but a lot of it really did come from personal experience. And learning that you just have to make space for everything. It's not about getting things perfect. Nobody is perfect. And once I realized that life isn't really perfect. And so if you go through life expecting a level of upset, when it comes, you're not blindsided by it. And and that's not, I'm not saying that in a pessimistic way. I'm saying that in a way that, like, it's part of life. Like that's what I realized. And there it's just making space for it. So even though we were going up and down in the subway, my end goal was to hang out with you. And whether I was hanging out with you in in the subway, whether wherever we went, my end goal was to hang out with you. And it's really important to understand what you're focused on at a current time. That's why I say that goals shift, because depending on what you're going through, your goals may shift, and good and bad are dependent, at least in my perspective, on the goals you have in mind. So because because I was focused on that goal, I wasn't upset. And it's all about, you're gonna struggle, and you're gonna need people. So the more that we accept that, and move forward, and accept when we need help, and try when we don't, and that's what makes me, I guess, positive in a way. I do have my moments where I feel down, but
Of course.
ultimately it's a matter of keeping things in perspective.
Yeah. What is it? I remember seeing this quote on a wall once, I feel like in high school, where life is 10% how you make it and 90% how you take it,
Yes.
you know? And it's like, what's the things are going to happen? Like one of the only things we can control as best we can, it's something you have to work on and cultivate, is how you respond to adversity. And there is always something to be grateful for. And if you can find a way to
Literally
live in
always.
gratitude, always, and if you can find a way to really remember that and live in that gratitude, man, it really can make, it can flip an entire experience on its head. It's not easy. I mean, it's not easy. It takes work. It's just like working out. I feel like, there's a muscle for that, and you have to work on it.
There,
Mine atrophies sometimes, and I got to get back off on the horse and really remind myself,
because you're
just how.
human. And
Yeah.
I think, sorry to cut you off, but it sparked something in me, because I think a lot of the things about, the reason why I'm preaching acceptance is because we're taught how to be a lot of the times. Even when we're listening to somebody, we're taught that, listening is sitting up straight, and waiting until somebody's finished, and not slouching, and making sure that you look a certain way, and making sure that you nod. And all of this is like, it's a way of manipulating the body to something that might not be comfortable. And so I think also what I want to say is that, especially for people on this call, be comfortable. It's a matter of being relaxed, and the only ideal that you need to live up to is the one that makes you comfortable, because ultimately humans have a need to connect. I can't stress this enough. If you do what feels good to you, ultimately you will end up helping somebody else.
So amazing. You're my perfect guest, talking about giving and creating, and you create apps and you give. I want to talk a little bit about that and how that creates healing, both for others, but really about how we can heal ourselves. And we talked a little bit about that. So I want to talk about some of the stuff that you're giving to. And I didn't even know until we were messaging a little bit before this call that you have been working with, I know you talked about autism, but you've also been working with disabled children.
Yes. So I worked in a, I went to the high school, and then I ended up giving back as I came to Adelphi for my master's. I'm an emotional coach for for people with varying degrees of disabilities.
I think you're an emotional coach for a lot of people watching right now.
I mean, and you know, whatever they take from it is what they take from it. I would be very glad if that's the case. But I'm an emotional coach for people with disabilities.
Based on
I
your experiences and helping them be positive, showing them what they can do, that they can be no different than others, they can achieve what anything they want, stuff like that.
Yeah, based on my experiences, but more importantly, based on their experiences, because
Perfect.
a lot of the things that they go through is it's unique to them,
Yep.
right? And it's their story, and a lot of the struggles that people go through are it's a matter of integrating that story into yourself. And so what you're really doing, you're not giving them a story. You're helping them make sense of their own story.
So you ask them about their story, and then what? I mean, there's a version of this when I teach acting and so forth. I always want to know what other interests they have and so forth, and how to incorporate what they do into their work as an actor. So not to compare, it's a big difference, but
I mean, yeah,
but go ahead. I really want to hear how you do this.
it's gonna sound boring, but I ask them what they like, and I listen.
It doesn't
A
sound
lot of
boring.
a lot of times, the basic issue we have is we don't feel seen. And when I say seen, I mean you have to see with your whole body. And that's where the acceptance comes in. You have to hear it, you have to integrate it, you have to understand it, and you have to end up going about things the way that, you know, there was an old saying, treat people the way you want to be treated. I would switch that to treat people the way that they want to be treated. You have to treat people the way that they want to be treated. And in order to know how they want to be treated, you have to listen. And you have to listen, and you have to accept people. And I think that that's the way you really go about things, is when you listen and you accept, then that the how takes care of itself. You know, so the process is less important than the actual listening, because the how takes care of itself eventually.
You got me, man. You got me. I didn't think you were gonna do it.
You
That's
cry?
no. Shut up. No. No, I'm not. I'm touched. I'm touched. Little watery eyes. They're just kidding. No, the treat people how they would want to be treated. I've never heard that before. All right. So I want to go back. We were beginning a conversation about the American with Disabilities Act. I think people may have heard that this is the 30th anniversary. It only passed in 1990. And as you can see, even with the American with Disabilities Act, and a major city like New York City, only 1 in 4 spots in the subway is accessible. And I think the law is that everything has to be accessible. So there's a long way to go. I think people might be amazed that it's only that before 1990, Americans with disabilities didn't have many rights and access to our country. What were some of the things that were happening and some of the things that were legal and allowed? I mean, we all know there was segregation, which is something that is hard to even conceive and unimaginable. There was slavery, but what is some of the things that the disabled were forced to go through before 1990? And I know there was there was eugenics. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. I hope you're enjoying Richard as much as I am. And all right, he's coming back. So hold on, everybody. We're gonna call Richard. Hey, brother. Hey, what's happening? Is your phone hot again? Okay. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna put you on speakerphone. Okay. We have Richard on speakerphone as he goes inside to cool his phone off. Can everybody hear him? Give me some responses. Can you hear Richard? Richard, say some stuff.
Hello?
You were going to talk a little bit about your experience with ableism And then I also want to talk about the cross section of your experience with racism and ableism. And I think you mentioned to me that your experience with ableism has been even more toxic, and then how you overcome it, because this is a conversation series about positivity.
Yeah.
So
So here's the deal of ableism is basically the idea that it is ideal to be upright and walking. It's the ideal that to be able-bodied is the focus of what all disabled people should be striving for. The reason that this is toxic in my eyes is because it shuts out the whole person. You look at disabled people.
yeah,
Disabled people are really the mothers, fathers, and adoptees of advance and change. Because I look at technology like an attempt to perfect the human body. That I think that a lot of times people think that it is desirable for us to get rid of disability, but really disability adds a unique kind of perspective on the world.
yes, that we do not have to get rid of disability. It adds a unique perspective, just like different cultures do, and we can draw on them. I'm with you now. I'm following what you're saying. Absolutely.
Yeah. And basically what ends up happening when you accept people with disabilities into the environment instead of trying to change the people with the disability to fit the environment is something called the curb cut effect.
Called the what?
The curb cut effect.
The curbside effect.
Yes.
Oh, I never heard about that. The curbside effect. Okay, tell us what that is.
And so let me slow down so that so the curb cut effect is basically the idea that things that benefit people with disabilities don't only benefit people with disabilities. For example, a curb cut is not only for people with disabilities to get up and down sidewalks, it also allows anybody to push his shoulder up a sidewalk.
Okay, so the curbside effect, when we give access to those with disability, we also give access to moms and dads who are pushing strollers and, have needs, or skateboarders who need to go up and down. I had a major back injury and it was hard to even take a step. My dad had a similar injury, so being able to kind of shuffle up I never thought about that. All right. Okay, sounds good. All right, see you in a second. All right, so this is a unique call. We could have used a ROM. There's nothing you can do about an overheating phone. I hope you're enjoying Richard. And I just learned something, the curbside effect. I never heard that. All right. Thank you for tuning in. We have to go, and we'll hear back from Richard to finish this conversation so we can say a little bit more and get the message across. So get out there, create something, build something, even if it's even create a doodle for yourself. Get your mind off things, put something positive into the world. Go give, go open the door for someone today, join a nonprofit, donate to a charity, call your mom and tell her you love her. It helps you. I promise. It heals the self. Right, so we're going to say goodbye. Thank you, Richard, so much. This has been amazing. God bless everybody. Stay safe and hope to see you soon. Ciao.